It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 189. And I am your host, Matthew PMBigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The Art of Asia. Covering Japan Society 5.0, AI market trends, depopulation, migration, and rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific. And we thank you for coming to today's show. Busy day as always. The November is creeping in, and we got a lot to do today. So thanks for joining. I think we're just going to hop right in. I don't really have any anecdotes. Except it was 22 degrees last weekend, and I enjoyed a very nice time with my son in the park. How about that? He's past that cute little boy phase. He's now 4, which means there's a lot of me like saying, no, no, no. He says, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, it's all good. It's like 2% of our relationship that I'm imparting on you right now. Parasitic worms manipulate praying mantises onto asphalt roads, Japan researchers. Thought I would begin with a little bit of research. I don't know about you, but I have an affinity for the praying mantis. If I could be an insect, I would choose to be the praying mantis. They're super predators, which I am not in this life, so I could give that a whirl. They also have crazy heads. They have those weird arms, like that clamp, that reach out and clamp, and they fly. And I've seen them around Japan quite a bit, and even in Tokyo. One apartment I used to have, they would fly onto my hats. If I walked past with a hat, so I could hear a on my head. I'd be like, what? And I'd look at my hat, and there'd be a praying mantis there. I was like, that's pretty cool. But I've also seen them wandering around on roads, and I never thought why, but After I read this article, it gave me some time to reflect on my encounters with praying mantises in Japan. Praying manti? Didn't look it up. Osaka. Every autumn, dead mantises can be seen lying on the asphalt of roads. A type of parasitic worm may be leading the creatures to their deaths there, researchers at Kyoto University and others have determined. Horsehair worms are parasites that hatch in water and first attach themselves to waterborne insects. I hate the insect world. It's so gross. They grow up inside mantises who devour their hosts and manipulate the latter into jumping into water. From there, they exit the mantises' abdomens and lay eggs in water, grasses, and similar places. Disgusting. But rule of thumb with podcasts is you shouldn't listen to them when you're eating. I've listened to podcasts where they're talking about food and then they start talking about disgusting things, and I'm trying to eat and I'm like, so don't. If this is your thing when you're eating, then go for it. Entosomaphology, is that what it is? Eating insects? Can't remember. It is believed that infected mantises are attracted to water by the light reflecting off the surface, which contains a lot of polarized light with horizontally inclined electromagnetic waves. A group including Kyoto University Associate Professor of Ecology Takuya Sato and the same university's then graduate student Yuna Sawada hypothesized that the infected mantises could be mistaking asphalt for water. When they measured the amount of horizontally produced polarized light reflecting off of asphalt, they found it was of a similar strength to water surfaces that infected mantises would jump into. In an outdoor experiment using light sources, it was found that infected mantises were attracted to sources with stronger horizontally polarized light. In order to confirm the creature's actual behavior, the group released infected mantises onto asphalt and cement roads painted 3 different colors. The infected mantises more frequently walked on the asphalt. Furthermore, researchers caught over 1,100 specimens of Harabido mantises, or Asian mantises, from on trees and on asphalt surfaces at 4 locations in Taiwan and Japan, and found that those taken from trees had a low rate of infection compared to over 80% of those taken from asphalt. Quote, Horsehair worms have evolved to skillfully manipulate mantises, but conversely, by human activity, they are strangling their own necks, Sato said. The research results have been published in the U.S. scientific journal PNAS Nexus. I wonder if that journal's been corrupted, captured by either the Chinese or BlackRock or the woke mind virus. Speaking of mind viruses. Anyways, I thought that was just kind of interesting because I have seen you do see praying mantises on roads like in the middle of summer. It's like, aren't you hot there, little buddy? But you don't want to pick them up because who knows what the hell they're going to do. Am I going to risk my fingers for a mantis? The answer is no. So that's going to be the first story for today. I hope that was to your liking, and a bon appetit. Weird Corner. Let's take a look at Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are. AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0, for the betterment of human lives.
All right, and that's, of course, the Japanese government's promo video from YouTube about Japan Society 5.0, kind of trying to get us all into accepting an AI-driven wireless world. It's like your smartphone, but instead of in your hand, it's in the cameras above you. And instead of apps, it uses facial recognition and voice recognition for your requests in the world, and so on. I worked from 2015 to 2020 in big tech in Japan. Then COVID ended all that, and after that, I started this podcast, and so I've been covering close to 10 years now the spread of AI in Japan, and it's spread a lot. And I always preface it with talking about how I cover it because people are tuning in every week, new people, and there's generally the lion's share goes to the two sides of the crazy coin for AI, which I don't cover unless it's to kind of emphasize that it's one of those sides of the crazy coin. And side one is AI is going to befriend us, then take our jobs before screwing our wives and ultimately killing us. But I might have to change that jobs thing because I'm seeing a lot of AI in the job markets right now. I'm looking for work, and the amount of AI I'm interacting with right now, it's crazy compared to the last time I had to do interviews, which was like 10 years ago. So, and as we'll see today, it might be actually taking jobs. So maybe that's not such a crazy coin, but the whole catastrophist, defeatist thing, that's what I don't like about that side of the crazy coin. And then the other side is just AI is a bunch of useless consumer tools that kids play around with on their phones. And that's not going to lead to any sort of major effects into our lives. But because I worked in big tech and I saw how it was being implemented on the infrastructural level, and also the amount of investments from both government and large corporations and startups and things like that, and just the capabilities of some of the back-end stuff that AI was able to do, like with generative adversarial networks, GANs, back about 2016, 2017, being able to reproduce images of faces with very high accuracy. You wouldn't notice that it was a fake face if you were just walking past it. So this kind of hyper-realistic, fingerprintless way that AI had taken a turn in combination with the amount of compute that had been established and with NVIDIA's compute power. And then in combination with that, with wireless communications becoming so resilient in that time frame, the groundwork was kind of laid for AI to become something more than just science fiction, becoming science fact. And so that's the kind of the way I cover it. That's the preamble. I kind of try to change it every week a little bit because we are living in a world where repetition is death. So let's take a look at the first one. And I tend to focus on things like facial recognition, AI cameras, self-driving cars, investments and research and things like that. Because that's the type of stuff that is going to affect me and my family, and it's going to affect you and your family too. You're going to walk into a place one day and it'll be there and you'll have to interface with it. So as long as it's done by the market and not by government, because the Chinese model is something to avoid, in my opinion. Even though the Chinese might love it themselves, they can have it. I, myself, am not interested in it. But today's first one comes to us from GETOPULATION, GETOPULATIONlab.com. That's what it is. An advertisement was loading up on my browser here. And I thought I do a lot of the research for this in Japanese, and then I translate it into English with AI. And then I take all the headlines from today's podcast, and I get AI to make them into lyrics, and I edit the lyrics a bit because I have a degree in poetry. Kind of. It's one of the things I studied. That's why I'm a podcaster. And I edit the lyrics, and I find a way to hopefully make it an interesting way to review the show. So at the end of the show, there's a song that reviews all of the headlines, but in lyric form. I hope you check it out. But this one was originally in Japanese, and it comes to us from GETOPULATIONlab.com. And GETOPULATION means self-driving or autonomous driving. In the age of autonomous driving, road signs may become QR codes. List of anticipated use cases. So I don't start with things like that might happen or may happen, but like thinking about how when we went from horses to cars, the amount of transformation that occurred along that way and to where we are now, it's incredible what has happened. So we can kind of expect the unexpected to happen again. And the fact that self-driving cars might be able to read signs if they have QR codes on them for making road choices and where to go and things like that, but also for mapping. This idea that the QR code is just for scanning things with your phone is one idea, but it's a great way to understand what's happening in the digital world and in the real world at the same time. So if my car scans a QR code and it pings a website, then with GPS locations, it can confirm where I am. And so you have like this confirmation in the digital world and in the real world at the same time via the QR code. And so it serves a tracking purpose as well, but it also can serve a confirmation purpose, like with the internal mapping of a car or something like that. It's kind of an interesting idea. And then, of course, you can also get coupons sent to you as well if you obey the traffic lines well enough. I don't know about that. All right, well, let's take a look at this article then. It's speculative. So QR codes are now commonly used to link people to information sites on the internet, for ticket admission management, and for payments, and have become a part of everyday life with the spread of mobile phones and smartphones. QR codes bring convenience to our daily lives, and in the future, we may see a time when QR codes are used even in driverless self-driving cars. How do self-driving cars use QR codes? We will introduce some use cases. So this is an editorial from GETOPULATION Lab, and that's why I'm including it. Not a lot of I've never really heard of this approach, and I'm pretty sure these guys have some access to what's going on back end because of just the amount of research that they're doing. These types of applications might be being proposed in a few different companies or by a few different startups, and they're kind of going, oh, this might be an avenue of pursuit. So let's take a look. QR codes continue to evolve. And while the initial one could handle up to 1,167 numeric characters, The currently popular Model 2 can handle up to 7,089 numeric characters. There is also a wide variety of types, including the small micro QR code, the rectangular RMQR code, the frame QR with a freely usable canvas area within the code, and the SQRC with a read restriction function. So it's kind of technical, but they're kind of saying there's a bunch of different QR codes. We might expand, they might become more widely used in the future, especially with self-driving cars. The 2024 Research and Examination Committee for the Expansion of Autonomous Driving, which is under the jurisdiction of the National Police Agency, has proposed turning the gestures of traffic controllers into QR codes. And I'll be posting pictures of these things at MatthewPMBigelow.com, which is the official website for the podcast, MatthewPMBigelow.com. In a typical self-driving system where a computer mechanically determines what an object is based on images captured by a camera, it is difficult to correctly predict human actions and gestures because movements vary depending on the person and the situation. To address these issues, if gesture instructions can be converted into QR codes, the instructions can be understood reliably and instantly by the vehicle-mounted camera. It is noted that complicated to identify and digitize each command, such as stop, go ahead, move to the right, etc. The problem may be to what extent an autonomous vehicle that receives the command can respond to irregular situations, such as moving into the oncoming lane. So the one use case would be QR codes for road signs. Road signs includes commonly seen regulatory signs, such as those indicating no entry, maximum speed limits, stop signs, and no traffic except in specified directions, as well as warning signs such as those indicating railroad crossings, directional signs such as stop signs and pedestrian crossings, blah, blah, blah. One thing that it kind of tricks or was tricking, I'm not sure if they've solved this problem, but what if you are driving and the car in front of you has a bumper sticker that has like a stop sign on it? Or what if there's like a company logo and it has something that looks like a street sign and the car misidentifies it as an action? But if there's an accompanying QR code and it's an official QR code, like all of the street signs have an official QR code that is, confirmed by the National Police Agency in this case, well, then the car would confirm that that's a street sign and not just some other sign or some other design kind of using that sign as part of its design, So this would be a way to confirm that it is actually a sign and not a product for some company. It is possible to create a pattern if the design is consistent and the numbers change, but guide signs often include not only the names of prefectures and cities, towns and villages, but also the names of roadside stations, rivers, parks, and other important locations. Other things what they're saying is, for road signs that don't change from the northern tip of Hokkaido to the southern tip of Okinawa, you would be able to put some of these signs into place relatively easy. But once you get into localized areas, maybe not so much. Like there's some areas in Japan that have warnings for flying squirrels. And it's like, well, if it's super local, then it's hard to expand it into a nationwide application for self-driving cars. What's another one? Vehicle guidance systems. Shin Meiwa Industry, a developer of parking solutions, and Guma University are conducting joint research to enable self-driving cars to use mechanical parking facilities, and as part of this research, they are considering using QR codes as landmarks. According to an announcement in 2021, they have demonstrated the automatic entry and exit of self-driving vehicles into elevator-type and 2 multi-level mechanical parking facilities, as well as a lane control system that enables autonomous driving between the 2 facilities by combining multiple communication and guidance methods. They have also succeeded in establishing an industry-first reverse parking technology for 2 multi-level parking facilities, building a unique vehicle guidance system that takes into account spaces where GPS cannot be used, and demonstrating automatic valet parking. Kind of makes sense. In these big concrete buildings, GPS is a bit weird because for multi-level, GPS is not good at anything above ground level. And if you then have a weak signal inside the concrete building, that could lead to mistakes as well. Anyways, just another idea. They use this type of thing for robotics factories quite a bit. using QR codes for automated transport robots, like I just said, using QR codes as landmarks. There are also systems that use QR codes as landmarks in autonomous transport robots. It's often used while simultaneously estimates the vehicle position and creates a map of the surrounding environment. So it's just, I'm not sure what that means. I'm not going to go too far into it. And that's going to be about it. Using QR codes to verify identity. In terms of apps, we may see an increase in the use of QR codes when getting on and off self-driving cars or when receiving packages from automated delivery robots. For example, in the case of an unmanned self-driving taxi, it is necessary to confirm that the person getting in is the same person who called the vehicle. To do this, a QR code is sent to a smartphone app, and the user is identified by holding the code up to the self-driving taxi. The same goes for delivery robots, and on and on and on. So anyway, it's just like a whole bunch of interesting ideas of how we might be subject to more QR codes in the future, and how that these could make self-driving more safe on highways where everything is highly regulated, but you might have local interference in terms of people's bumper stickers or images, or somebody has an image of a stop sign on the rear view, on the rear window, for example. It happens sometimes. An interesting idea. I'd never really thought about having this QR code expand in such a way. And whether you like it or not, it's just going to start happening. You'll be driving down the highway and there'll be a QR code. It's like, what's that for? For self-driving cars. Oh, all right. All right. And another self-driving news, just a minor, this is not a long article, but I thought I would include it here in the self-driving segment of the larger encompassing Japan Society 5.0 segment. Tobu to introduce 4 new autonomous trains on the Daiichi line from 2026 onward. There's some issues with the translation on this one. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it just says the introduction of new trains was announced on the company's second quarter financial results for fiscal 2024. And it said 4 trains will be introduced between 2026 and 2027, and with verification runs planned from 2028 and onwards. So it's just slowly kind of implementing this new technology. A lot of these local lines are operated by they're called one-man densha, one single operated trains, or there's just one person working the train. And I guess they're looking to automate them. They just stop at every stop. And I guess if it's for lines that don't have a lot of crossings or a lot of other interference, like if you have to wait for another train line to come for like a transfer or something like that, if it's basic enough and it's isolated enough, then it could be automated enough. Would you get on a self-driving train? Would you put your child on a self-driving train? Another one, AI-equipped unmanned demonstration aircraft to make first flight in November 2025. Defense Acquisition Agency official reveals at Technology Symposium. And I'm just including it here in the self-driving. So it says Mitsubishi Heavy Industries will conduct the first flight of an unmanned demonstration aircraft equipped with AI in November 2025. A Defense Acquisition Technology and Logistics Agency official revealed this at the Defense Acquisition Technology and Logistics Agency Technology Symposium 2024, which opened in Tokyo on November 12th. It's very on-the-nose titles in Japan. This flight demonstration aircraft is called the Flying Test Bed, or the FTB, that evaluates newly developed aviation technologies in an aircraft flight environment. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, which received a contract from the agency, will begin research and prototyping of AI-equipped technology for drones from fiscal year 2022 in order to demonstrate AI-equipped technology where they are prototyping such drones to control devices that can be equipped with AI. The overall length of both the combat and the reconnaissance models is over 3 meters, and the wingspan is just over 2 meters for the combat model and over 3 meters for the reconnaissance model. Both models are equipped with EOIR, that's electro-optical and infrared sensors, but the reconnaissance model will also be equipped with synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. I'll be posting pictures of these at MatthewPMBigelow.com. And of course, this is just, if Japan doesn't do this, then they're just going to be left behind. This type of drone AI warfare thing, looking at what's going on in Ukraine right now, And the expansion and overall success rate, even though it's kind of hideous to watch these drones like fly into, people in trenches and just blow them all up. It's happening. And so if you don't do it, somebody else will. And in this case, it's not like if we don't develop COVID-19, then somebody else will. It's not quite on this level. It's more like instead of positioning a whole bunch of people to defend a little island in Japan, why don't we just put like a bunker of drones there and some missiles and optical laser technology? So if that a ship from like China gets too close, you just light it up and try to disturb the piloting of the ship by just flashing so many lights at them. And if they still continue to come, well, then you launch a missile or a torpedo or something like that at them. And if a bunch of dudes land on with military gear and start storming the beaches, well, then you unleash the drones, something like that. So you could have like a unmanned deterrence. It's like, if you want to come to this island, you're going to lose men. We're just going to lose drones. So if Japan doesn't get on this train, then where is it going to go? So they have to. And I'm glad that they are, because there's another one. I'm going to actually go to the North Korea one. North Korea tests exploding drones as Kim calls for mass production. This comes to us. I'm recording this, by the way. I didn't mention it, on November 19th, 2024. And this article comes to us on September 15th, 2024. North Korea tested exploding drones designed to crash into targets, and leader Kim Jong-un called for accelerating mass production of the weapons. The country's latest military demonstration came as the U.S., South Korea, and Japan engaged in combined military exercises involving advanced fighter jets and a U.S. aircraft carrier in nearby international waters. North Korea's official Korea News Central agency published photos of Kim talking with officials, blah, blah, blah. The drones flew various routes and accurately struck targets, the news agency said. Its images showed what appeared to be a BMW sedan being destroyed and old models of tanks being blown up. Who knows if this is just key fab or whatever, but if you don't have defense against this stuff, like imagine if North Korea managed to attack Japan with a bunch of unmanned drones or something happens. So I'm glad that Japan is getting on board. Hopefully they can move fast enough. Japan is an aging society with tons of bureaucrats, and moving things forward is very difficult. And then the procurement gets lost sometimes. They don't do it themselves. They can't do it themselves, so they have to import the technology, and then they assemble it in a way that looks Japanese, but none of it really is sometimes. So I hope that they can get on board with more like domestic production and build up a know-how in the tank of the youth, the mind tank, the collective mind tank of the youth, so that they would be able to produce these things domestically without having to rely on ever-shifting and dubious international relationships. Next, Sekisui House launches Japan's first AI clone owner service. So we're moving out of the self-driving part, and we're moving into kind of like consumer applications, but this is B2B style in a way. Sekisui is like a major producer. Launches Japan's first AI clone owner service that allows home buyers to easily consult with the owner via chat. Now, this is a type of thing that I'm like, as I'm looking for work, I'm like applying for stuff, then I get messages, but the messages are sometimes real people and sometimes AI. And then other people are using AI to reply to that AI. And then it just becomes this AI loop where we're trying to do something real, but it's all AI. And I really don't like it. I don't mind a little bit of it. I don't mind like people checking grammar with AI or even like how to write a formal introductory sentence or something like that. But when it's just all completely AI generated, it kind of, I don't know, like it's past the uncanny valley in one way where we believe it. With our eyes, but I'm not sure if I believe it with my soul. Like after a while, I kind of know that it's AI. Like with the songs that I'm playing at the end of it, I know it's AI, but it's also getting very good. So it's kind of a way to study the state of the art of AI, not evangelize it in any way, but just kind of go, oh, that's where we are. But with this type of service, it's like, is this actually useful? Or is this just, like I mentioned, like stupid consumer products that get delivered to our phones that we're just told to use over and over and over again? Let's begin. Sekisui House and AIQ began offering the AI Clone Owner service for home buyers on November 12th. It's a chat service that allows users to hear real stories at any time. The service utilizes AIQ's AI clone technology to chat with owners who have built homes with Sekisui House based on their Instagram posts, allowing users to hear real stories at any time. This will be the first AI chat service in Japan that uses Instagram posts from real homeowners as a source of information to enable home buyers to access information that will be useful for building their home. A survey of people considering a detached house revealed that when it comes to source of information for home purchases, people tend to place more importance on word of mouth and information from third parties than on information from home builders. To meet these needs, AI Clone Owner worked with 3 owner influencers who share their home building process, interior design ideas, and lifestyle tips on Instagram to use AI to analyze and learn from their Instagram posts and build an AI clone that can respond as if it were the real person based on those trends. The AI Clone Owner is accessible 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, so you can just ask questions or get advice without having to contact the owner directly. This lowers the psychological barrier to asking questions and allows you to hear a real voice regardless of time and place. In addition, this AI technology utilizes the digital staff provided by AIQ and combines profiling AI that visualizes people's insights with LLM's large language models technology, making it possible to communicate as if the person were the real person. To use the AI Clone Owner, first access the AI Clone Owner page from Sekisui's host and blah, blah, blah. It takes you through it. Is this something? What I guess it does, if you're an Instagrammer and you are an influencer for the home building community, you're probably going to be very conscious of the type of things that you post onto Instagram. Like, you're not just going to take a picture of a sink at night and say that there's a sink there. The picture of the sink is going to be taken in a well-lit environment. It might have some flowers nearby, and it might look really nice. And then with Instagram, you might include the types of products that are in the shot, and the color schemes as well could be determined by AI. So I guess with this AI chatbot, if you're looking through a bunch of things for a home and you're building a home, you're like, oh, that's the type of tap I wanted for my kitchen. You might be able to ask the AI, what type of tap is that, and where can I get it? And it might be able to identify it if the metadata is included in the tags that the influencer took the picture of. So this is actually quite a common thing now that I think about it, and it extends onto 2 other non-related industries that use the same approach to sell to AI services. Interesting. This just popped into my mind as I was thinking about it. One are whiskey merchants, and the other one was a classical music streaming service. So in as much the same way, this classical music streaming service compiled a massive amount of classical music, and they annotated it, and it was really well annotated, and it had lots of footnotes and musician names and place names and et cetera, et cetera. So the metadata was very accurate, and a bunch of people that love classical music would pay quite a bit of money to use this service because classical music fans are very picky. They might love Rachmaninoff's Second, but especially not if it's performed by this conductor or something like that. So they're very good at this type of thing. And so this data set was so well established that it was sold. They sold it to like a different company, not Spotify, but something like it, for lots of money. They made off like bandits. Then the other one was the same one with whiskey salesmen. These were kind of like some whiskey merchants, like Indian descent whiskey merchants in England, where they had the same thing, like a bunch of like this crazy whiskey collection, and they were selling it, but they had annotated the data so well that it could be data mined by AI companies. So they sold it off to something like that as well. So this is kind of a theme where you're marketing something online, but the items that are in the image are so well documented that it can connect it to a buyer. And if the buyer is willing to pay enough money and you're willing to sell it, why not? So it's like this new weird market. Those other two ideas I learned about like a few years ago separately from each other as well. And as I was talking about this new product, those other two examples just popped into the back of my mind. It's like, hey, wait, this might be a theme and a business model, in fact. So you might be looking at home pictures on Instagram and streaming services for classical music and whiskey merchants. But the way that they collected their data and compiled it made it very valuable to people in the AI sector. Interesting, isn't it? Weird. Next one, facial recognition. And I've been covering the establishment of facial recognition condominiums in Japan for like 6-7 months now, and they're selling like hotcakes. DXYZ's facial recognition platform, Freedo, or Free ID, introduced to Presence Corporation's Presence Grand Kyoto Kawaramachi, the first condominium in the Kansai region to use all facial recognition technology. So I've been covering other condominiums or mansions that use facial recognition technology as keys to get into the main gate and then to get into your door. And so everybody's face can be used for the main gate, but only your face can be used for your door. And if you have a guest coming, you can upload your guest's face into the recognition system for a one-time pass, and then they can use it as well. Something like that. And it's spreading from Tokyo down to Kyoto. And Freedo is a platform. So they want to have people opt into more and more services where you can use it for your house, but then you might be able to go to a shop or go to buy some tickets or use your face as instead of a ticket to get into a stadium for shows and things like that. So they have these big digital transformation projects, and instead of just offering it all at once, they're dripping it out and seeing where it sells, and then seeing within that market, in this case, condominium owners or renters, where those people, where else they would like to see or use their face as part of a digital infrastructure. Not everybody's going to get into it, but now you have a market of people that are into it. They've bought this condominium knowing that it's all facial recognition. So now you have people opting into this market. Now you're going to be able to find select people within that market and see what other services they would like to use with their face. Well, it's not a bad idea. It's pretty smart. Presence Corporation and DXYZ Corporation are pleased to announce, this is from PR Times, so it's a press announcement, that they have decided to introduce the facial recognition platform Freedo, developed and provided by DXYZ to Presence Grand Kyoto Kawaramachi, a new condominium being developed in Kyoto. Presence Grand Kyoto Kawaramachi is located in Kyoto City and the part of Kyoto's largest downtown area, and there's 10-room plans ranging from floor areas from 38 square meters to 113 square meters, or corner units, ensuring a high level of privacy, and are newly built condominiums designed to provide residents with a comfortable and satisfying life. Blah, blah, blah. You got to get the idea from there. I'll be providing pictures of this at MatthewPMBigelow.com. And again, I'd like to mention with something that I mentioned before. A lot of this new technology, you don't notice that it's there. Like, there's this picture of a condominium. It's equipped with facial recognition technology, but it looks like a building. You don't notice the technology. You notice a nuclear bomb. You notice a jet. You notice an iPhone. You notice earpods. You notice trains roaring past. You notice factories producing stuff, but you don't notice facial recognition cameras. You don't notice self-driving cars. They just look like cars. If you look inside and there's nobody in them, well, then that makes sense. But even if somebody's behind the driver's seat, you wouldn't think that it's a self-driving car unless you're really aware of it. So all of this stuff, it's unnoticeable. we don't notice it, but it's spreading. And so when we see things like the philosophers on TV talking about it, it's the end of humanity. We notice that in terms of like, wow, that sounds like crazy. And in terms of consumer products, like people tapping on their phones, like with AI, we kind of notice that. But the actual lion's share of it, like the lion's share of the product releases, we don't notice. It's really hard to notice unless they are screens. But that's going to be a fraction of the rollout in the future. So there we go. Just an idea. Next, Japan audio industry calls for appropriate use of AI as voice actors air frustrations. Oof. I don't feel good for models and I don't feel good for voice actors, because if you're just looking for a 30-second ad and you have to look for a person and then screen the person and then hire the person and then go to a studio and then hire engineers and get microphones just so you can have somebody say, "We like it hot," something like that, like opening next Thursday. Like so many companies pay a lot of money to get that done. If you can just get an AI to do it, sure. It might be different if it's somebody that's super famous, like the singers of Perfume. You might want them to actually say something because that would be some sort of value associated to it. But if it's just like an announcement, like, remember, it's happening now. Why would you need a whole bunch of voice actors to do it? So these people are having their jobs flushed down the shitter. They're gone. 3 groups. The Japan Actors Union, the Japan Entertainment Management Entrepreneurs Association, and the Japan Voice Actors Association held a joint news conference and proposed exploring ways to properly coexist with AI while protecting voice acting culture. The groups have been discussing how to manage the use of generative AI technology in audio production since November 2023. In their joint statement, the groups requested that AI-generated voices not be used in animation or the dubbing of foreign films, and that permission be obtained from performers when training generative AI on their voices or using AI-generated voices based on their performances. Too bad. You got paid for that shit. You got paid to go in there and use your voice. Now it's done. Now they're just going to take it. They're just going to take it. But I can see why it wouldn't be used in foreign films, but who watches movies these days? Animation, yeah, sure. Maybe there's that. But what if you wanted to have AI voice generation in animation? What if that's your goal? I want nothing more than to make animation with generative AI. Why should a union stop me from doing that? Yeah. Go pound sand, union. Go do this. Ah, kawaii. Oishii ne. Oh, taihen. Yeah, go do that and think that you're in some sort of culture. Good luck. I think a lot of these people are out of a job. This is what happens, like the threshold. And a lot of companies as well, with like when Excel gets automated to a certain threshold, a lot of people are gone. A lot of like Colgate, I think the toothpaste manufacturer, announced that they're going to fire most of their copywriting division and just use Chat GPT. So we're seeing like a lot of jobs going. So in that case, yeah, it's gone. It's over. Moving on to some more infrastructural related projects. SoftBank taps NVIDIA for Japanese AI grid project. Not too much on this. It's behind a paywall, but we've got a couple of paragraphs, but it's just monitoring the situation. Japan SoftBank, where I worked from 2015 to 2020, and I really liked it, is teaming up with NVIDIA to create a nationwide artificial intelligence grid by turning its 200,000 base stations into mini data centers, the telecom carrier said on Wednesday. The initiative brings together 2 of the industry's most vocal proponents of potential AI computing, SoftBank Group founder Masayoshi Son and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with the 200,000 base stations into mini data centers, but knowing SoftBank, and I taught the SoftBank engineers there for 5 years, They are very clever people. They would use this legacy infrastructure, as they would say, and try to convert it into new products, into new value for people or for enterprise solutions or something like that. So maybe they make like their own internal platforms and provide them to enterprise solutions and construction managements and things like that. So kind of interesting. How am I doing there, SoftBank, with my evaluation? Next, Prime Minister Ishiba plans to provide more than 10 trillion yen in public support to the AI and semiconductor industry over 7 years. So that's just two major infrastructural announcements. Prime Minister Ishiba has announced to develop a new framework to provide more than 10 trillion yen in public support over 7 years, up to 2030, in order to support the domestic AI and semiconductor industries. The aim is to attract investment, and the government has strengthened support for domestic semiconductor industry, especially from Taiwan and so on. We're not going to go too much into it. Next, SoftBank Research Asia, Tokyo established. I'm not a big fan of this type of stuff, but Microsoft Research, they do some very interesting things. I've seen them work with 3D cameras to create holograms, and you go into this room and you interact with holograms, and then it records that memory, and then it saves that memory, and then you can like make that video bigger or smaller as you're watching it through like a HoloLens or something like that. So you'd be able to create memories and then adjust them for size and have them play in like the corner of a screen as you're watching it. Like a dog, like you love this dog, and then, you know, your dog dies, but you still have like videos of your dog, 3D videos, and you would have it like playing in like on a glasses, like in your glasses somewhere. Like it's just very interesting things. Purpose and vision. The Tokyo lab will focus on key areas aligned with Japan's socio-economic priorities, including embodied AI, well-being and neuroscience, societal AI, and industry innovation. These research activities aim to leverage cutting-edge technologies to drive social progress to contribute to the local innovation ecosystem. Kevin Scott, Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft Corporation, commented, Japan has a great tradition of innovation and craftsmanship. Dr. Yasuyuki Matsushita, head of the Tokyo Lab, is excited about the new challenge. And Dr. Lee Dong-jo, Corporate Vice President of Microsoft Research Asia, said, I think it was originally established in Shanghai or Beijing and was headed by Kai-Fu Lee, who's now the head of Sinovation Ventures, one of the world's largest AI corporations. The establishment of the Tokyo Lab is the result of Microsoft Research global expansion and long-standing collaboration with Japan, blah, blah, blah. A few months ago, I came across some news from Nikkei Shimbun that said that Microsoft and Google and other companies are going to work with local Japanese governments to establish AI governance systems. And I've been trying to find more information on this ever since. It's one of those things where they announce it, but nobody ever follows up on it. So I'm wondering if Microsoft Research Asia is establishing something in Tokyo to give Microsoft more of a beachhead to curry favor with local Japanese politicians and embed Microsoft AI into how AI governance would be conducted. And then in a local areas, a company like Microsoft would be able to just kind of take over in many ways if they wanted to. So I'm kind of wondering, is this an honest collaboration, or is this like a predator-prey type of situation where you have a massive amount of Japan that's aging out. They need to update, and they want to update digitally, so the local people can't do it. Microsoft comes in and takes over. But the front-facing is some official Japanese government front. But behind it, it's Microsoft. It's Google. Is that going to happen? Will Japan be able to leverage its know-how to maintain its own sovereignty, digital sovereignty, or will it be captured? We have yet to see. I wish that I hope that the Japanese people are a little cynical enough in these positions to understand that they are on the weak end of this deal, and that they would be able to be unwittingly compromised by the promise of whiz bang, woo wow AI wireless technology, but it actually serves as a kind of a takeover force. We don't know, but it could happen. Anyways, next one. Last one for today. China's Baidu releases the latest version of its autonomous driving platform, Apollo, to the world. I'm only including this because, yeah, Japan might have this thing of totally being innovative and having craftsmanship and everything like that. But for a lot of this new technology, they are importing it from other places. And if we have a bunch of back-end or loose security measures, does this just like with the Microsoft thing? So we might have certain car companies in Japan using Baidu, which is the Chinese Google. We might have Google in parts of the AI governance, Microsoft in the AI governance. But where's Japan in all of this? Is it just importing it all and then customizing it at the local level or at the domestic level or at the national level? Or will Japan be able to build its own? Because I see most of it being imported, to be honest. And there's a kind of like this reputation that Japan has where they're very good at building train networks that run on time, and they're very clean, and they work better than anywhere else in the world by a long shot. But when it comes to wireless digital algorithms and things like that, they trail far behind. Is it just the lack of manpower, the lack of culture, the lack of interest? Most Japanese people that I know that are into engineering really like building things with their hands, and even in their side projects, they just like working with hands and finding complex things to do with their minds and their hands. And then even like the parks for kids in Japan are built by engineers where you have to climb up ladders in certain ways to get to the top. You have to like shift over here and then move over there. You don't notice that at first, but it's engineering. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm not seeing a lot of this type of news emanate from Japan. So we might have the construction of very nice condominiums go up with facial recognition technology. But where is that technology coming from? Is it domestically produced or is it imported? And if it's imported, how do you manage the supply chain on that? Can you make your own facial recognition cameras in Japan underneath these new systems? Or is the condominium owner have a contract with a Chinese company where they're obligated to procure Chinese-made facial recognition cameras? So Japan has Nikon and Canon and Sigma, all these great camera companies. Can't they convert some of their business model into making facial recognition systems, or is it just beyond them because it has to deal with the coding and the algorithms and the wireless streaming and the components and the wireless components and all that? So we're kind of seeing like this where one thing ends and another thing begins. And it's very clear where this line is being demarcated. And that seems to be where it is, where Japan makes the things in the physical world, but in terms of digital applications, it relies on imports more and more and focuses a lot on things like building data centers. But what about Japanese made algorithms? What about Japanese made wireless coding? What about Japanese made platforms and things like that? Are we seeing that more and more, or is it just copied and pasted from a Chinese model and translated using Google Translate? We don't know. We will never know.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom.
Whoa.
Society 5.0. A technology-based...
All right. I mentioned that I sometimes like to cover migration and depopulation.
Here we go.
So a lot of people say, oh, there's too many people. We got to get rid of them. They got to go. I'm not having kids because who would want to raise kids in this world? There's too many people. And then they say, well, there's just going to be more land for me. Kind of like somebody at a buffet restaurant. You go to a buffet and there's like 3 people there. You're like, looks like I'm the king of the buffet here. But actually, when the population decreases, and it's decreasing dramatically right now, like incredibly dramatically, unexpected things happen with the edges of your society where it's fraying. One example was some schools that were abandoned because of the towns getting smaller and smaller and having almost no kids there. The infrastructure is there, so they turn them into places to grow crickets for human consumption. So instead of having a school where kids are running around and you're raising up some generation to participate in society and to carry a legacy and do all that, instead of that, now you have edible crickets. Or in northern parts of Japan where I guess certain amounts of farmland or production are fallow, it's not like it's pretty sunsets and more rice for me. Bears move in or something like that. Not enough acorns in the forest, so bears move in some years. And these are some of the things that occur where it frays, and what appears amidst the fray is not exactly the cheeriest sort. 102 local Japan traditions halted or lose folk cultural asset status amid population decline. A total of 100, this comes to us all from where? The Mainichi, Japan's national daily since 1922. A total of 102 festivals and other cultural events designated by 31 prefectural governments as intangible folk cultural properties have been suspended or had those designations lifted due to many cases to a lack of people, the Mainichi Shimbun has learned. In a majority of cases, the designations were removed due to the aging of participants or a decline in the population of young people. The situation underscores the difficulties in passing on folk customs as the nation's population shrinks. Traditional events and festivals that are judged to have a particular value are protected, blah, blah, blah. The results show that since 1975, when the current system of designating cultural properties began, there were 9 cases across 4 prefectures in which designations had been lifted. Chiba Prefecture removed the designation for 6 traditions, including Ino Kabuki, due to the loss of groups. Saitama, Aichi, and Oita prefectures also recorded 1 each. There were 93 cases across 30 prefectures in which the events had been suspended. By prefecture, Kumamoto recorded the most at 11, followed by 8 in Kochi, 7 in Fukui, 5 each in Miyagi, Chiba, Nara, and Wakayama prefectures. The 4 prefectures of Nara, Wakayama, Tokushima, and Okayama said they were not disclosing the names of individual traditions, though Okayama partially did so, while Mie Prefecture said it did not know the facts about the situation. So, anyways, I'm going to include a picture here of a bunch of old people at a festival. And I love Japanese festivals. The longer I'm here, the more you like Japanese festivals. And I guess if I'm not asked to carry on the tradition, they can just go ahead and die with the rest of them. Next one. Japan births likely to fall under 700,000 for the first time in 2024. It's very few for a population this size. The number of births in Japan, this is coming to us from Kyoto News on November 6th. So it's a little bit old, but I hadn't covered it because I've been covering other things. But the amount of kids being born is still low. The number of births in Japan in 2024 is likely to fall under 700,000 for the first time, after government data showed Tuesday that the figure in the first half fell 6.3% from a year earlier to 329,998. The figure for the first 6 months of this year, which does not include foreigners, reflects the birth rate remaining at record lows in the past years, as more people choose not to marry or delay marriage and having kids until later in life. No. What we're experiencing right now is the after effects of the COVID lockdowns, where we took 2 or 3 years from kids' lives, in the case they're 20 to 23, 16 to 19, 15 to 18. A lot of these people where they would have been dating or getting used to other people were told to lock down, not talk to anyone, wear masks, and just shut up or you're going to kill grandma. So now that it's 2024, we're seeing this latest COVID generation move into the dating world, but they were told not to date, and all the parents were not, of course, encouraging normal life behavior. So it's exacerbated the situation. The number of deaths in the first half of the year increased 1.8% from the same period last year to 800,274. And the natural decrease subtracted from the number of births stood at 470,276, according to the government data. That's almost 500,000 people gone from the Japanese population. Yeah, and so people will say, well, why don't we just bring in a bunch of foreigners to work? And then you're like, okay, but then your COVID happens and you shut down the economy and you print unprecedented amounts of money, and all of a sudden this group of people, namely the Vietnamese, are turning to crime, it seems, to make ends meet. So you have this fraying at the edges. The population's going down. Some cases you get schools closing down, and then instead of raising children in the schools, they turn them into factories for cricket farms for people to eat crickets. I've covered that before. I may have mentioned it earlier. And you bring in a bunch of laborers, and then they start turning to crime because your police agencies are not savvy with modern crime networks. And so we have like a couple of this.
Stupid gadget of the week. Stupid gadget, SGOTW.
Salmon poachers in Hokkaido, likely solicited by foreign language ads online. Police are investigating whether a group of poachers arrested in Hokkaido, northern Japan, were solicited by a dubious part-time job ad written in the Vietnamese language that appeared on a social media site. 3 Vietnamese nationals and a Japanese citizen were arrested on suspicion of poaching salmon in a river in Sharitown in September and October. The 3 Vietnamese are aged between 20 and 33. The individual is thought to have invited along, one of the Vietnamese individuals who admitted to the crime is thought to have invited along 2 other Vietnamese who are his acquaintances. Police suspect that dubious part-time job ads that are appearing on social media sites in Japan are spreading in foreign languages. So instead of having this group of Vietnamese come over and just be, I don't know, decent, a lot of them are turning to crime. I don't know why, because I may have mentioned earlier, but like the Myanmar don't so much, the Thais don't so much. A lot of the migrants coming to Japan right now, there's a lot of them, are chill, they're cool. But the Vietnamese, I mentioned it before, there's like my pattern recognition goes up. Not that I think they're going to rob me or be criminals or anything like that, but it's just, I always feel like something's about to go wrong or something's going to go wrong, and it often does. It often does. Sorry, Vietnamese, but I don't know what to do. It's not my issue. It's just I'm noticing things about the Vietnamese. And of course I like the Vietnamese. Who doesn't? I've never met anybody who's like, oh, go away, Vietnamese. It's just like, what? What's happening here? Something's going on. We're failing these people somehow. That's one way to look at it. Another stupid gaijin of the week with tourism. So we don't have enough people here, naturally, and so the economy is going down, so we'll just turn and shift to tourism. Well, what could go wrong?
Stupid gadget of the week. Stupid gadget, SGOTW.
Coming to us from the TokyoReporter.com. American tourist accused of defacing gate at Meiji Shrine with fingernails. Tokyo Metropolitan Police arrested a 65-year-old American tourist, a senior citizen, for allegedly defacing a torii gate of Meiji Shrine in Shibuya Ward earlier this week. Meiji Shrine is one of Tokyo's most important shrines, by the way. Like, it's a huge shrine. It's very important. It would kind of be like going up to like a cathedral and pissing on it, like right on the door, pissing on a cathedral's door. On Tuesday morning, Stephen Lee Hayes allegedly carved his family's names onto the wood gate with his fingernails. Police believe it was done as a prank. Upon his arrest, Hayes admitted to the allegations. According to the police, 5 letters, each around 135 centimeters off the ground, were carved into the pillar. They are believed to represent the names of the suspect's family. After the incident, a representative of the shrine noticed the vandalism and called police. The suspect is on vacation in Japan with his family. The investigation is ongoing. Now, I don't know why you would come to Japan at that age and engage in such stupid behavior. Or it's like, it's not a church, therefore I can scratch my... Or, hey, I'm in Japan. It's time to do something I would never do back home. Criminal behavior. I don't know. Why would you do such a thing? I think I know why. It's because...
Stupid Goddamn of the Week. Stupid Goddamn, SGOTW.
All right, and that's going to cover it for today. So we're going to play that AI song. It's a combination of a solid funk groove, jazzy city pop, and some reggae thrown in there as well. So so that's going to be that. So remember to go to MatthewPMBigelow.com and give us a donation at paypal.me/JapanWUT. I don't see anybody else compiling such reports from the AI infrastructural rollouts that are going on in Japan. Do you? Maybe even consider throwing some traffic our way. Just go to the website, MatthewPMBigelow.com. Check out the links. I'll post them up. Every story I mention here, I link it up on the website. And I also provide photos as well. So thank you for listening. Until next time, I bid thee a very warmful and heartful Ja Mata.
In the streets where the mantis falls, a parasitic terror that enthralls. Researchers in Japan, they found worms that lead them to the ground. It's not in the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. All the Japan World Podcast, Society 5.0 spreading in class. QR codes on roads, selling our cars, where to turn and where to go. Come on. Tobu's trains, they fly with grace, no driver needed, just AI in place. Voice actors cry, AI's the foe. Industry please, let's use it slow. SoftBank and NVIDIA, tight and shifting sand, creating an AI grid meshed across the land. Trillions and trillions, yeah, trillions and trillions more. Microsoft in Tokyo, turning taxpayers into world subscribers. It's not in the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right now. On the Japan World Podcast, Society 5.0 spreading in class. QR codes on roads, selling our cars, where to turn and where to go. Come on. Tobu's trains, they glide with grace, no driver needed, just AI in place. Voice actors cry, AI's the foe. Industry please, let's use it slow. Tobu's trains, they glide with grace, no driver needed, just AI in place. Voice actors cry, AI's the foe. Industry please, let's use it slow. Things Apollo now global in scale. North Korea's drones, an explosive tale. Traditions fade as numbers decline. Less than 700,000 births in time. It's not in the future, it's happening now. It's not in the future, it's happening right